Great decorating is all about the details, including a gorgeous textured set of coasters. How we love a coaster. Functional. And why not be beautiful? Quince has a gorgeous set of woven rattan coasters in 3 terrific colors with their own little holder that you're going to absolutely love. And if you haven't visited quince.com/DTT yet, get on over there. It's everyday elevated living without the markup. From crisp 100% linen bedding and soft organic cotton towels to airy curtains and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And the best part? Like Quince's clothing, their home goods are half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT.
We're going to hold your hand. Hi, it's Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wellness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today, we are talking about how to renovate with confidence and skill. And these jobs can be a nightmare if you don't have any kind of preparation or you don't know what you're doing. So that's why we're talking about this today, so that when you do renovate, you are going to have the tools that you need, you're going to have the resources that you need, and we're going to try to hold your hand as much as we can through this process.
Oh, yeah. Any renovation, big or small scale, can be daunting, overwhelming, and costly. So we're going to help you with our tips and advice so you can get your renovation done right and at the right price. You really need to know what you're getting yourself into, and you need to know thyself as well, in my opinion, because the way you'll approach a renovation will be different. I'm sure Anita and I each approach them differently. Different personalities can handle a different amount of renovation stress and whatnot, and different people want to be involved at different levels during a renovation. So I think you have to really have a long and honest conversation with yourself about the renovation and how much you want to be involved, how much you can be involved, whether it's work obligations or family obligations, and whether or not you're going to stay in the current space when you're doing the renovation, and know all that beforehand.
I think that's such a good point. Are you going to be in the space? You know, we just renovated our kitchen and part of the living room at our mountain house. And we did this long distance. We were in Texas while most of the work was going on in this house in North Carolina. And so really, that's another consideration. Are you going to be doing this in a house that you're not actually living in? Maybe it's a new house, you haven't moved in yet, and you're moving out of state. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider. And in that particular case, you do probably need a general, which we did get on this for several reasons, which I'm happy to talk about here in just a minute. But so there's a lot involved, not just your personality, but again, the complexity of the job. Do you have subs that you already know about? Because it's all about getting really quality people. And if you don't have any sources for finding good subs, I think that's another reason you might want to turn to a professional.
Yes, I'm kind of approaching this 4 different prongs. So the how involved you can be and want to be, the scope of the renovation, of course, the budget, and yes, very crucial, what Anita mentioned, do you have a list of reliable subcontractors that you can call on? Or even if you're going to go the route of having a general contractor involved, do you know a good general contractor? So you want to do all of that homework and self-thought before you embark on it. You really need to develop not only the sense of the whole entire project, what you want done, how much involvement you're going to have, but also getting this really crucial list of people that you feel good about. Something can always go off the rails, but if you don't like somebody from the beginning, or you get a meh recommendation from them, that is not the person you want to be using.
Oh, so true. That can really mess up your job. And of course, you want someone honest. If you are using a general or even the subs, don't necessarily go with the cheapest person, because sometimes that can get you into a lot of trouble. You want to go with the person who has the best recommendations, in my opinion. So you're not looking for the gold-plated person who charges the most, but you're not looking for the cheapest too, because the cheapest person probably is cutting costs and is not doing the complete job that really needs to be done.
Other considerations are you going to need to get a permit for whatever renovation you're doing? Or are you going to try to go without a permit? One is sort of required or definitely required, and you want to do one without a permit. Hey, we're not here to judge. We're just saying those are things you need to know.
Well, that's great. Listen, that's great until you go to sell your house. And then when they find out that you had work done and you didn't have a permit for it, you can get in trouble with that and with your insurance. If you had work done and there's a problem with it and it wasn't permitted properly, then you can get some situations where the insurance coverage doesn't work. So we won't go into any details here, but that is definitely something to keep in mind. And are you comfortable dealing with the permitting process? Do you know who all you have to work with? Are you in the city, out of the city? What county requirements are there? That's a lot to be aware of. So if you are doing this yourself, you really need to make sure you're educated on all of that.
A good general contractor will normally, what they say, pull the permits for you. They'll go through the permit process, but time is money. And so if somebody's got to go to the local official office to request the permit or pick it up, they're going to charge you for their time more than likely. So maybe it's something that you can learn about, and you can do sort of the legwork to get the permits and submit the information, and then they can schedule the inspections as you go along. So normally, if you have a permit for a renovation, you get the paperwork, you submit your application, and then you might have to have a drawing. Sometimes you have to have architectural drawings. Sometimes a sketch will do. It really depends on where you are in the country and obviously the type of renovation you're doing. And then you'll get a checklist of different things that need to be inspected along the way. And then each time your subcontractors and or contractor, or even yourself, if you're doing this DIY, then at those different junctures, an inspector needs to be called out, take a look at the work, and then you can move on. So if it's electrical, the walls have to be left open. They look at the electrical and then they sign off on that aspect of the project, and then you move on to the next. So it does take a little bit more time, but as Anita's saying, that's really covering all your bases. You're completely buttoned up. No matter whether you get a permit or not, you want to have licensed subcontractors that are going to perform the work to code. So each one of these trades, whether it's plumbing or electrical, framing, they all have codes that they have to perform to. There's a certain way things have to be done. For an example, with electrical, the outlets, depending on where you are in the country, they have to be a certain number of outlets, and they can only be distanced so many feet. They don't want you dragging extension cords across rooms and things like that. So there are safety reasons for most of these things. But this is something you probably wouldn't know anything about, but you can learn about if you want to really be hands-on. If you don't want to be hands-on, then find a great general contractor. And I'm sure Anita can speak to this as well. There's going to be an upcharge for that because the person is supposed to be doing all this stuff and managing the subs, making sure the work is going along as it should, and also dealing with the inspections and permitting.
Well, and one of the things I really liked about the contractor we used is that he was over there almost every day checking on things. And it was really very good to see him over there. And when I wasn't there, he was sending me pictures and videos, updating me along the way with any issues. And yes, we did have issues. And that's my next thing I was going to say, expect issues to pop up. It's not like starting a new build where they can pretty much say it's going to cost this much to build, because they know exactly where the walls are going to be, where the wiring is going to be, and they can estimate pretty closely, except maybe the material costs might be going up over time. But when you're opening up an existing house, you don't know what kind of problems that you're going to run into. So for ours, for example, I had looked at the budget, went over it. I knew all the materials and the labor costs, everything with the contractor, everything looked good. And it was actually less than I had anticipated. I was very happy with that. But when we got into it, it was, I got those calls. We ran into this. Oh, this wiring is in the way of where this door is going. So now we've got to reroute it. And I thought, well, that's not really that big a deal, just reroute it. But I didn't understand until I got the bill. It was a big deal. So, the cost did end up going up significantly because of that, which was completely unanticipated. Mm-hmm. And so that's really something to keep in mind on your budget. So I would not tap out your budget when you're planning this, because you need to put in at least 20% for unexpected problems that could crop up.
Yes. And I would say about 30% for a general contractor. That's kind of normally the amount that they would tack on for their very important role. If you're going to have them dealing with all the subcontractors and they're on the site, if you're off premise and doing these fabulous things like Anita's guy did with sending photos and being really involved and dealing with the permits, then that is a great value. But if you don't feel like you need that, say you've been in a community for a long time, you have a trusted electrician and plumber, and your friend gave you a tile person, and you're doing a bathroom, well, you might have all the subs that you need, and then you can act as the general contractor. And you will have to deal with the permits if you're going to get the project permitted. You'd have to deal with that yourself. Normally the subcontractors won't do that, but you could always ask. Maybe they would while they're down there on a different project to also deal with yours. So there's a myriad of ways that you can handle it, but it really does depend on the level that you want to and can be involved, your budget, of course, the scope of the project, and the people that you have to tap into, the skilled labor.
We actually have a whole episode on how to be your own general contractor, and I will link that in the show notes, and that'll go into more detail of what you need to be keeping in mind if you are your own GC.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. I can't stop using dupe.com. This is an amazing website, service, best friend. I absolutely love it. So you find something that you really want and it's too expensive, it's a budget buster. Then you use dupe.com and you can find almost the exact thing or very similar products for much less. So I was crushing on this incredibly gorgeous coffee table. I had it in my mind. I had it in my Pinterest boards. I had it everywhere, but I just didn't have it in my house because it was too expensive. When I learned about dupe.com, that was the first product that I tested. And boy, did I find some amazing dupes. And I purchased one. So the original was almost $3,000. And Dupe showed me many choices, all the way down to under $200. Now, you may think something this extraordinary is hard to use, but it's so easy. Just type dupe.com/ before any product URL in your browser, and boom, it instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account required, no sign up required. It's completely free. That's completely free free to use. Stop wasting your money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today.
Another thing to keep in mind is your schedule. And maybe it's open-ended. It doesn't really matter how long the project is going to take. With us, with this mountain house, it's a house that we rented out as a vacation rental. And so I had to know how much time this project was going to take so that I didn't have renters coming during the work. I asked and was told, oh, this is a 2-week project. That was what I was told. I knew better than to say to the rental agency, it's 2 weeks. 2.5 months. That's what I blocked off, 2.5 months. And it finished 2 days before the deadline. So
This is not your first renovation rodeo, for sure. You knew what to expect.
I had ordered these special order doors, those 10-foot glass doors, which are stunning and spectacular. They took much longer to come in than I was told they were going to come. So who knows what happened with that. And then, there was just one thing after another that was just kind of a delay. But that was the main thing. So there really are a lot of things that can throw you off. And so if you're ordering special order materials, don't believe the numbers that they give you on how long it's going to take. Order it. I would give yourself some extra buffer in there and order it so that it's coming early, so that you're not sitting around waiting for materials. Even if you don't have the deadline like I did with renters coming, you may have other, considerations, like your house is torn up and you don't have a kitchen sink. When we did actually go up there, our kitchen was completely ripped out. I mean, by the time we got there, it was put back. However, I didn't have a functioning kitchen sink, and I couldn't put anything in the cabinets yet. And so, that's hard, having your entire kitchen in your living room, living out of boxes. And so, I mean, how do you even wash your dishes without the sink? So if you are going to stay when the renovation is going on, I highly recommend that you really think through, if it's your kitchen, how are you going to cook? How are you going to wash dishes? And think about what you can do to minimize the amount of dishes being washed, but where are you going to wash them? How is that going to work? Because inevitably, you'll want to cook something while you're in your house, maybe even a frozen pizza. So you might want an electric skillet or a toaster oven or a freestanding microwave to cook your meals in the meantime.
We had no kitchen for sort of a blur, but it was somewhere upwards of 7 months. My family thought, what happened? We went from our pretty pink and purple bedrooms to this crazy dump with no kitchen. Christmas, I was like, hey kids, we all got running water for Christmas. We started in October, so we did go through the holidays as we were. No real Christmas ornaments. We kind of made them from paper and whatnot that year because I was not going to bust out more bins. So I can really speak to living in. I've done it a couple of times already. For me, that's the way I like to roll with a renovation, particularly if it's a big one. I want to be on site. I want to know who's showing up, what time they're showing up. I want to see the work they're doing. I do the prep work, like Anita's mentioned, so it can be as comfortable, maybe it's not the right word, but people can tolerate it. And so what we did was we set up a small galley type kitchen, like all dorm size fridge, little microwave, a few other things for cooking, a toaster or whatnot in the dining room. This wasn't the first time I'd done a big renovation, so I had a good sense how long it would take. And I did order everything that I wanted in advance. I didn't want anybody waiting on me or my special product. I wanted everything on hand when they were ready or before they were ready. So that's something you want to think about too, is pre-planning. You just don't want the guys to show up and start jackhammering out something or sledgehammering out a wall and taking your kitchen down to the studs, but you haven't picked out your cabinetry or you haven't picked out your appliances. You need to get that all done in advance. And I know we're talking about stuff that's kind of like scary and not so much fun right now, but that's the whole point of this episode, is we're here to hold your hand and alert you to all these things that you need to be thinking about. And if you think about them in order, it is going to go so much more smoothly. It's not just picking out a paint color at the last minute, which is also a bad idea. These are big ticket items.
It goes back to what you're saying, Kelly. Know yourself. If you know it takes you a very long time to make decisions, then I would think of every single decision that needs to be made and make it ahead of time. Because I know somebody whose project was massively delayed because she hadn't decided what paint color she wanted. And it just had to stop the project while she decided. So this is really a consideration, and there may be some other things. So again, think through every single thing that's going into this project and where you want outlets to be. I mean, think that through. And I actually had a gray island and realized at the last minute that this outlet was going to show and that I could buy a gray outlet to match the gray cabinet. So I was scrambling to get that really quickly. So there's a lot of things like that to think through. And again, the more decisions you can make ahead of time, the easier it's going to be for you during the project. Even trim molding, which they need to know what kind of trim molding you want.
Right. And when you're 3 or 4 months into a renovation, particularly if you're living in and your kids have had the same lunch sent to the school every day. Like my daughter was getting a Starbucks, like a grape and a piece of cheese and a cracker every morning when Peter would drive her to school because there was just no ability to make a nice wholesome lunch and send it with her. So everybody's kind of bleary-eyed, and one of the subs comes to you with one of those molding profile books. Your eyes will just cross. You will be like, I don't know how big I want my crown molding. So yes, all of those things you need to figure out, and would be so great if you knew. Sure, you want to be able to bob and weave. You don't have to be just set in stone. Maybe you have to bob and weave if something that you like is not available, but that and you can point to it. Yes, that's the one I liked. Yes, I picked that one out. Oh, here. Another thing to think about is don't think that because you have such a strong vision and you know what all your Pinterest boards look like and your mood boards, and you saw this at a friend's house, that verbally you're going to be able to convey this to another person. You might be the most articulate person in the world. You might read every single design magazine and book there is. You might listen to decorating tips and tricks until your ears fall off. But that doesn't mean the subcontractor you're talking to has really any idea what your vision is. Pictures are great if the person is into looking online at Pinterest boards and things like that. Some contractors are, some subs are, most not that I've encountered, but a picture that you can actually hand to them and show them, or go get a sample of what you're talking about, the tile you're talking about, or something like that, and actually show it to them so they can understand what your vision is. I think that's really helpful if everybody can understand the direction you're going in.
That's what I did with my carpenters when we built the previous house. Was I took pictures on Pinterest of exactly what I wanted and just taped it to the wall where all those cabinets were going. And I said, just put this just like this. This is just like this, or make these changes. And it was taped exactly where the cabinetry was going. And because I had a great cabinet maker, they turned out perfectly. And he added extra details. On this one cabinet, he noticed that I had a diamond shape. So he repeated that diamond shape in other places throughout my kitchen. And it really gave it a cohesive feel. So, that's what comes from someone who really loves what they do and is really good at it. And that's a difference between someone who's going to cost more than the cheapest person.
Yeah. And even so, it may not be a difference in cost. Just try to connect. See who you connect with. Don't just get one estimate. Certainly, you want to get at least 3 in the different aspects of the job. But even if those 3 are like, I'll pick the one in the middle, but I'm not really jiving with this person. Keep looking if you have the opportunity or the time, because I was so lucky to come upon someone, and it was this circuitous way that he came to me. He came to me as the roof inspector when we were buying the house, and then he was around doing some other repairs and whatnot. He would see me interviewing all these other tradespeople, and he'd be like, I can do that. And I can do that. So he ended up being able to do a lot of things, but we just clicked. And I wanted to use a lot of stuff that was left over in the house and what maybe you would call architectural salvage or things like that. And he would get psyched with me about my idea, like, hey, we can take this piece and we can do this with it. And he'd be like, oh my gosh. And then he, like you're saying with the guy with the diamonds, and he would kind of build on that, literally and figuratively. And we would come up with something that was even better than the idea that I originally had. So that is maybe rare, but if you don't look for it, you're not going to find it. So if you have the time, take the time to look for something like that.
My builder, of my Houston Heights house. We had such a connection. We thought the same things were funny. We enjoyed hanging out together. We went to the salvage yard together. We'd pick out things, and he would actually get excited when I would come up with ideas of, let's do this, and then he had ideas, and we really kind of played off each other as far as the design concept, and we ended up with, I think, a much better project because we worked together, and he was very open to my ideas. Whereas some contractors, you come up with an idea and they go, because they don't want any hassle. They just want cookie cutter. They don't want to take any extra trouble. They want to get your project done as quickly as possible. And they're all about, I just want to do my job and get paid. So I think you're very wise to say that, Kelly, is that it really is not just about the price or getting the median price. It's about getting someone that you connect to, that you feel like you're going to be able to work well together, especially if it's a big project. You're going to be spending a lot of time with this person. So you need to like the person. You need to trust the person. That's what you're really looking for. Someone that you can work with, that you trust, that's going to do, who's going to take on your vision for the project. So there's so much more to this, and you don't want to be working with someone you don't like. And the other thing to think about is you're going to be paying these people, let's just say it, a lot of money, whether it's a contractor, a general contractor, whether it's a painter, a carpenter. And so there's a big difference in writing a check to someone you like and someone you despise. You know what I mean? I mean, it's hard enough writing the check. So you want to be happy writing the check. You don't want to be mad every time you have to write a check to somebody. I mean, not that you're literally writing checks anymore, but you know what I mean.
And also try to remove any uncertainty as much as possible. Anita had alluded to it. We're not really talking about a new build today, but you could be talking about that too. There's a lot of advice being tossed around today that could apply to that as well. But we're really kind of talking about renovating existing space. And so you don't really know, like, what's in the wall and if your pipes are kind of corroded. And maybe you don't know what's under that wall-to-wall carpeting. The pipes, you might not be able to know too much about. You can get a plumber to come snake them and look and see, just so you get a sense of where your money's going to go. Because if you have to spend a lot of money on an essential thing like putting in new plumbing pipes because the other ones are now corroded and there's barely any water going through them, that's going to really dig into your decor budget, and maybe it's going to limit the project because you can't go forward with, say, a bathroom or a kitchen with bad pipes. So just one example of something that maybe you can find out beforehand, before you open up the walls, before you've then decided to go with expensive custom-made cabinetry. The flooring is kind of easy. You can just pull up that wall-to-wall carpeting and see what's there. I'm sure you've all heard stories or seen things on Instagram or Pinterest where people are like, we pulled it up and there was beautiful wood underneath and we couldn't believe it. Or people hit into a wall and they find a mantle behind it. Like, sometimes you just don't know what's going to be there. So if you suspect that if there's nice wood flooring throughout your house, maybe there's going to be nice wood flooring under this carpeted space too. So any kind of the uncertainty, the unknown that you can then find out about before you make your decision on how you're going to proceed would be great.
There's so much involved in these projects. So there is a lot to think about when you're choosing whether or not you're going to do it yourself or if you're getting professional help with a general. And even if you are using a general, still do your homework, learn as much about your project as you can before you choose your contractor. And then also try to learn from your contractor, because maybe this project you use a general contractor and the next one you become your own. I mean, I would see any kind of work going on in your house as an opportunity to learn, and there's nothing wrong with learning. There's no downside to learning all of this stuff because it's going to help you with the next one, with the next project, and maybe you could help a friend. I mean, people are always asking me for recommendations on craftspeople, so it's nice to have a Rolodex of people to refer to help other people out too.
Great point, because even if you decide to get a general contractor this time, you're kind of paying for some lessons in renovating if you really pay attention. I had renovated a number of houses, an apartment in Manhattan, and a few smaller things before we moved to California. But when I got here, I didn't know anyone, and I certainly didn't know any good subs. So I did go with a general contractor at that time, and I knew that I was going to be paying more for the project, but I had no resources to tap into. And so I ended up learning a lot from this guy because I really paid attention. And then when we were ready to do other things in that house, as the years went by, I didn't need a general contractor anymore. I had my own list of people. And then when we moved to this house, and it was going to be an even bigger renovation, I brought some of those people in. And another thing to do is if you like a particular subcontractor, ask them. They work with people all the time. They're likely in a house with they're an electrician. They're probably in a house with a plumber, or their brother-in-law might be a plumber. So ask them, hey, I need a framer. I need a painter. Do you have anybody that you work with? Most people aren't going to want to recommend somebody who does a bad job because it's going to reflect poorly on them.
Oh, good point. That's right. Because if you know someone who does a great job, they probably know other people that do a great job at other crafts. So
yeah, my painter, who I absolutely love, I met him at a kitchen renovation, and he was painting the cabinetry. And I said, "You're doing a great job, but this cabinetry is beautiful." Oh, let me introduce you to the fine carpenter, and now he's my fine carpenter, and I use him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some of the fun stuff, right? So you got all your pictures, you got your Pinterest boards, you got your chair sheets, you're so excited, and maybe you're doing a couple of spaces. I would prioritize in your mind for the very good point that Anita brought up is you might have some surprises that are going to cost you some money. So if you've already sort of prioritized, well, we really want to do the kitchen and the bathroom and add a deck. Well, maybe the kitchen is the priority, then maybe the bathroom, and then maybe the deck. Prioritize the aspects of the renovation. So in case you are surprised and there isn't going to be money left over to do the third thing on the list, that you know that in advance as much as you can. So I would just in my mind think, what is the most important thing? Because you certainly don't want to get to a point where the budget runs out and you're half done with all three areas and you can't finish. Right? That would be awful. Before you commence, please purge, please clear, please cover things up, or make sure that the people that you have working there are covering it up. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into renovations and their really nice floor is just sawdust all over it and boot prints, because the people that were working there didn't bother to cover the floor. You don't take that for granted. You have to say that you want the floors covered, you want everything covered, and then they're protecting what you already have there. You don't want to get in a situation where now you have to have the floors refinished. So cover the floors, the walls if they're not going to be painted, any lighting fixtures. You don't want to be climbing up there and cleaning a crystal chandelier of dust. If they could just simply cover it up.
That's true. We had a lot of dust in our house. It was everywhere. I mean, you'll be amazed just how it travels. Yeah. So that is something to keep in mind. So yeah, you do want to cover things up. And again, it's very different whether you're living there during the renovation or not, whether you even have furniture in the house. That's going to impact what all needs to be done to protect what you have.
So I hope that we have held your hands through this very exciting and daunting aspect of living in a home, the renovation. What are we defining today?
A portiere. This is a drapery that is hung in doorways, and it stops drafts, it dampens sounds between rooms. They offer a romantic feel to a room. I think they're a lovely idea. You don't see them much, but if you go back and look at the way people lived in the old drafty houses hundreds of years ago, they would have a portiere over doors because there was just such a draft coming through. And we just had this Arctic freeze in South Texas was it last week or this week? Anyway, it was pretty recently. I was wishing I had some of these over my doors because we were, having to tighten the doorknobs because the air was coming through there. The air was coming over the top of the doors. Because remember, we just moved into a new house. It's not new, but it's new to us. And so we're just kind of learning. Basically this storm taught us where all the wind was coming through. So now you know what needs to be, what needs the weather stripping. I was thinking that if I'd had one of these curtains to go over some of these doorways, what a nice buffer that would be for keeping the cold out. But also it's nice for sound protection too. I'm sure you've seen them, the heavy velvet or tapestry. I think traditionally that is what these curtains tend to be made of, but it's a new day. If you don't need them for insulating purposes, you could use one that was linen or cotton.
I never knew that there was actually a term for it. So that's great to learn.
That's right. Well, there's a term for everything. It's just sometimes we don't know what it is. And I kept thinking I couldn't think of the word for a while. And I finally found it. So that's what it is. So I think these are something to consider, and a way if you need some fabric in your room to perhaps just kind of soften an area. I think it's a lovely thing to think about.
Oh, I do too. And I do think about it from my front door because it's a lot of glass and there's no way to cover it. I'm going to hold off because I know that I really want this beautiful Schumacher fabric if I ever do it. So, but I'm going to, now I know the word and I can ask for it. My crush are these great boots that I got. I got them for our trip to London. So I can say that I walked around that entire city with these boots on for probably 80% of our visit there during the 5 days we were there. And they were so comfortable. And I get compliments on them constantly. They're very cool looking boots and they're waterproof, which is why I got them for London. And it was good that I had them. It did rain a little bit while we were there and was super cold for a couple of the days we were there. And these boots did the job. Comfy, waterproof, and really kept me warm. They're by a company called Blondo, which I guess they just do waterproof. And so you can check out their various styles and whatnot. But the ones that I got are these suede and they go over the knee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I'm not that tall. So I thought, I don't know how that's going to look. But I'll tell you, they actually, I think, make my legs look longer.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't expect. Yeah, they're super cool looking. So I got the black suede and I will link them in the show notes.
Oh, I cannot wait to see these because I think I'm going to need a pair. I can just already tell I need a pair.
I think you will.
So mine's not nearly as interesting, but I like the practical things, and with the new house, we're finding a lot of little odds and end practical things are needed. And one of the things we realized was that we didn't have enough night lights in the house. And so I found on Amazon some plug-ins, and they're dimmable night lights. So It's got a slider switch. You can make them brighter or less bright. And like with a lot of these night lights, they come on when it gets dark and they go off during the day. So you're not using the electricity when you don't need it. Right. And I think they're LED. So they're not like the old style. You'd put that little incandescent light bulb in, the wee little, like 1 inch one. Yeah. Well, this is a flat piece. There's no light bulb to change.
And if you listen to our What's What bonus episode about incandescent to LEDs, you'll know that incandescents are on their way out. So don't stock up on incandescent night lights or you'll be in the dark.
Well, that's true. Although I did go to this store out in the country and they still had some incandescent light bulbs and I bought some. I know. I was like, I'm clearing out this shelf. Thank you very much.
Did you have to go under the cover of darkness in a disguise?
Well, no, they had them in the store. I mean, obviously they were on we hardly have any of these left shelf, but I did.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I didn't have to put on a disguise to buy them or anything. Obviously, they were old stock.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We are excited for you if you're doing any renovation, and this episode will help you now or when you get to one, because chances are, if you're listening to us, there's a renovation in your past or future. So remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.